You're listening to the Live Free podcast. I'm your host, Christine, author, speaker, mentor, and guide. I'm here today to discuss living life after adversity, to discuss living life fully once again, a life of hope, peace, and resiliency, a life fully embodied. I utilize the lessons that I learned going through not one, but two primary cancers. I'm here today to guide you to your joy, turn your pain into power, and lead you back to yourself. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Live Free podcast. Today, we have Dani Cooper on the podcast. Dani is an advocate for women having choice in their lives and living a life that some might consider outside of the box. She's a 38-year-old child-free by choice, neurospicy woman who believes in supporting women and their community. Her main focus of belief is that although people might not choose to walk the same path and live the same life as everyone else, that they should be happy and see other women thriving. She believes that there is room for everyone at the table and that you can change at any time and do something different. To always chase joy and live that life fully. Most recently, her and her husband sold everything they had, their dream home that they had spent 6 years renovating, all their vehicles, all the things that they were working on, and decided to travel the world. So I'm looking so forward to inviting Dani onto the podcast and to share her wisdom on how to just do it and take that leap and enjoy life. So welcome, Dani. Hello and welcome to the Live Free podcast here, Dani. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's fun to do something and see a familiar face from across the way.
Absolutely. So let us know where you are tuning in from.
I am in San Jose, Costa Rica, and I have been here since December 2nd, but I also left Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, October 16th to do a Europe leg before we got to Costa Rica, and we'll return in April.
Fantastic. I know that everyone listening was kind of like, oh man, I want to be there. As soon as you started talking, there's probably a spark of jealousy. That is fantastic where you are and how you got there. And so that's precisely what we're talking about today, Dani, is we're talking about, what brought you to this extraordinary life that you are now living. And, really who is Dani and how did that shape and become where you are sitting right now in Costa Rica talking to me. So give us a little bit of background information of how you arrived at this place.
Oh, I feel like I'm a firm believer that you can change your circumstance whenever you want. If you are down a path, there's an old adage saying that if you get on the wrong train, the longer you wait to get off, it's the further you are from another destination. So I do believe that you can want something, get it, and then change your mind and want something else or a different path or different road. So traditionally, this was not what I had planned in my life. And I didn't have traveling 6 months a year on my to-do list or anything. But I did know I wanted to travel, which was always important to me. I took my first flight when I was about 19, saved up my money and went on with a girlfriend because traveling just wasn't in the budget for me growing up, unless it was a road trip with your family. So I really loved traveling, but I didn't think it was going to be as big of a part of my life until it was, because I wasn't happy after I got everything I ever wanted in life. Not that I was unhappy, but I didn't feel what I thought I would feel once I got it. And so I decided to pivot my life and do something different.
Extraordinary. I just love that. So the story of, it sounds like, growing up, you maybe didn't have like a ton of like travel on the mind or, plans to do extraordinary things. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I'm kind of guessing that maybe, medium in terms of like finances as a family and those sorts of things. And so travel just wasn't something that was going to be in your future. So you didn't really expect. And then you bought that first ticket as a young person. Am I on the right path there?
Yeah, like I was very fortunate growing up. We did get to go to the lake a lot. My dad actually didn't even have the opportunity to go to high school. So my parents, I was raised in a two-parent household with a lot of love, but I was raised with a stay-at-home mom and a dad that worked a lot to make those ends meet because he didn't have the education, but he had like work ethic like nobody else. So our life just looked a little bit different than, we didn't get to go to Disney World, or if we went to go on a family road trip, it was a road trip and everyone crammed into the vehicle and you counted um you played I Spy with My Little Eye, and that was the vibe. So when I but I always knew that kind of the culture that I grew up in, it was very much like you marry your high school sweetheart. Not from my mom because she kind of got married at 18, so she was like, you don't need to do that. But from like the other moms were just like super excited if you had a boyfriend in high school and like get married, have kids, and live in the same neighborhood with all your friends that you grew up in. And I, not that that's bad, but it just never felt like me. So my girlfriend and I went to Mexico at 19, and I remember very vividly. Unfortunately, that was kind of pre-social media, so I don't have the photographic evidence that I would like. But I remember putting my feet in the ocean. Like I can still remember the way that that felt the first time. Like I put my feet in the ocean, and since that point, travel, and girls' trips was very important to me. I didn't meet my husband until I was 30, so I did have a lot of time in my 20s to do a lot of things for me. So I think that from a very young age, I didn't want the traditional lifestyle.
Well, amazing. And, I have so many questions. First of all, the husband that you met was from another country. So that's
Yeah, yeah.
extraordinary already. You're kind of like, yeah, no, travel, me, this is important. And so then you meet this man from the UK, and you're
Mhm.
just like, yep, this is what I want. What drew you to him?
Um, well, this is gonna be a little bit of like a, maybe some people are gonna think ill of this, but we actually worked together. He was my boss. So, and
Funny.
we got together after we stopped working together. But I got to see I have ADHD and I feel like limerence is a really big thing. So in my past dating life, if there was like, and I watched a lot of rom-coms. So if there was like a moment of a potential meet cute, I'd be like, that was kind of a meet cute. Maybe this is my person forever. And I would just be like obsessed with them for 2 weeks and forget that they existed, or maybe a month. So it was the first time that I got to know someone in a way that it was a friendship, but I also saw how he treated people that he managed that were in like entry level roles, and the respect that he showed everyone in the organization, and how his mind worked on that just because things have been always done this way doesn't mean that they have to be done that way forever. So I just got a different sense of who he was and how he saw the world. And he was from a different country that was a little bit more progressive as far as women in business. So that was really refreshing. So we just remained close after we stopped working together. And it just came a point that I was like, I think I'm in love with my friend. And that was a hard transition for me to navigate because that had never happened before. I had many guy friends all in my 20s, but nothing really. I was like, I think I'm in love with him. That's going to be hard to figure out.
How'd he take it?
He took it really well.
Okay.
I don't think that, I feel like we moved in together like a week after we had that conversation.
Amazing. I love that.
Mhm.
I love that. What a fantastic story. And another thing that you mentioned that I really want to draw on for a second before we move forward is how you got it all. So, that was you went off and you tried to find the guy, and you loved traveling, but you kind of pushed it off a bit, and you thought you'd have the babies and you'd buy the house and all the things. So tell me the story of what you were questing for, what you got, and how that felt.
Yes, so I just assumed because society told me that I never had that maternal thing that everybody else had, but everyone's like, "Well, you've never been in love, so when you fall in love, that'll kick in," or "When you turn 30, you'll definitely want babies," or "When you turn 35, you'll definitely want babies." So, luckily, when we got together, I had the conversation really early on with him that I said, "I don't." I don't want children, but I had it in the back of my mind that I would change my mind because that's what I heard my whole life. So I said, but like, I want to be with someone that if I was to change my mind, that that would still be on the table. And he said that, you know, at his age, he was a door that he was happy to close, but he loved me enough that he wouldn't take that away from me if I decided to want that for myself. Um, so that was a really like pressure off situation. But like
Absolutely.
I wanted to run a foundation. I started one. I ran it for 5 years. I wanted the big house, got the huge house with the indoor pool, renovated it, had the new cars in the driveway. I had that like growing up. I used to drive down Spadina and look at the big house and be like, I'm gonna have that one day. Like I wrapped up so much of success in my mind growing up to wealth, and they're very different things.
Okay. Say more about that. That is a powerful statement.
Yeah, so I just assumed that if you like ticked off all these boxes, so I found the great guy, got the really big house, got the well-paying job, had the businesses, had the foundation, and I just still was like, this doesn't feel like me necessarily. Um, I just didn't, I felt like it would be like this all fulfilling thing if you got everything you wanted. And it turned out I wasn't fulfilled and I wasn't unhappy because I had a beautiful life, but I wasn't in love with my life. And I
Mm,
wanted very much to be in love with my life. So
yeah.
I told my husband on a Wednesday and I asked him if he was happy. And he said, I'm not unhappy either. Like it was very, we were in the same kind of page. And I said, I think we should sell the big house and spend more time abroad. And we, that was Wednesday morning, a random conversation. And I think the for sale sign was up by Monday.
No. Amazing, amazing. And you both were just like, "Oh my gosh, you know what? I don't think I can do this." What was that like for you to bring up what I assume would have been really scary to bring up like kind of like we've done everything that we were supposed to do and I'm not feeling fulfilled to your husband and say like, "What do you think?" Like what was like was that a terrifying moment? Did you already feel like he was going to be on the same page as you? Where were you at?
Um, gosh, I can't even. I think that I knew that like there was things that he wanted in life that he wasn't getting in Saskatoon either. So I didn't feel scared to have that conversation because we've always had very open conversations. But the worst thing that happened is I would bring it up and we'd have a conversation and we would pivot one way or the other. We would either keep the house and change other things, or I feel like some people get so stressed about a conversation, but there's many outcomes that can happen from any scenario. And the wonderful thing is you can always change your mind. You can say, you know what? I was freaking out that day. I don't want to sell the big house. It's my dream house. I want it. I love it. I don't want to do that. So let's find a way to make that easier or whatever. So I do believe that people are so scared of change, but change can be so powerful because it means that you're never trapped. You can always, always do something different. So if we travel for a couple years and we're like, you know what? I miss having that space. I miss having that place. There's other houses to buy. Like we could do it again. We did it once.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You know, I'm just thinking about those moments, that really transitionary time. And I something I want to pick out that you said is, you know, people are afraid of change. And I think that that is so true. So often people will think to themselves, "Oh, there's something more for me." And I know it, but I'm so scared to lose this and this and this. And so then they just stick to the status quo, to what society said that they should do because that is what's safe. That is what's understood, you know? And understood can be the very thing that keeps you stuck in your unhappiness. Like I can imagine for you that was a scary time in some ways. It must have been.
Um, well, there was like a level of, a lot of our friends, we renovated that house and we didn't always have the budget to renovate a house that size. So a lot of our friends that are extremely talented individuals put a lot of their blood, sweat, and tears into that home too. And it was like, ah, we finished it, but now we're selling it. And it kind of, I was like, some of my friends' kids had their birthday parties there in the pool. My friends had their engagement photos there and their baby showers and their stagettes and their stags. And I had fundraisers there for the foundation that I ran. And like, there was so much life that I lived in that home that and parties we threw and, there was just so much. I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna, like, lose that sense of, like, community in the home, or I don't want to disappoint people and essentially sell their art, like, because some of their art is, like, in the house, like, it's built
Mhm.
into the home." So, it
Yeah.
was a and, I knew that my parents came in from out of town, and that's where they stayed, and I didn't wanna disappoint them. My dad worked for free for many years on that home. Um, so I feel like I didn't wanna disappoint people, but also I knew that you can't live for everybody else. That's like a surefire way to, like, lead to misery. So you just kind of have to be like, "I'm doing this for me," and I believe in life that if you do something, the people around you, if they will support you because they want you to be happy. And it might be a little bit hard for them in a transition, so they might not get it right the first time that they tell you that they're supporting you or they're happy for you, but I do believe that the people that love you, they'll love you through change because it means that you're going after something and you want your friends to grow and evolve and glow and all those things. So I do believe that people will be happy for you.
Mm, I love that. That is a huge moment in the podcast today. I think that, we can really reflect on that is that often there is a fear of change, not only for what you will lose, but what other people's perception will be of the change that you're making as well. And that can be
Mhm,
another pigeonhole that really just keeps you in your stuck spot. So here
mhm.
you are choosing all of these absolutely crazy, according to society ideas, I'm not having children. I've decided to sell my huge big house. I've got these cars, I've got this foundation, I've got all this. And you know what? I'm going to drop it. I'm just going to put it all down and I'm going to go somewhere.
I
What was
know.
that like?
It was freeing. I think that as
Freeing.
I when I was young, if there was, like, a house party and a whole bunch of kids, like, I hung out with the adults. I'd have to be asked to leave because obviously the adults didn't wanna hang out with go into the basement with the rest of the children. Like, I wanted to be adult so badly my whole life, and I feel like you just add on these, like, pressures and these responsibilities until, like, you'll break one day or kill yourself from illness. Like, you can smother yourself in adulthood, and I think that I just was like my brain works really quickly because I have ADHD. I'm a little bit neurospicy, so I I just was like, "You know what? We've been going on this road for so long, and let's just switch it." And I switch things fast. Like, so my friends are like, "Whoa, you made a decision like that quickly?" I'm like, "No, we're just doing something different, and we're gonna go at the same pace." Um, yeah, and we'll try it until we don't try it anymore, because that's the
Yeah.
beauty. There's as long as you have your health, you can do anything.
Extraordinary. And you make it sound easy because it is. But I think that there's something that you have that a lot of people miss, and that is this it almost feels like a childlike hope. You're just like, "No, I'm gonna choose me. I'm gonna be happy." Like, you're like, "No, I'm just gonna do it." And maybe this is this neurospicy that you talk about. But you're just kinda like, "Yeah, no, I think I'm just gonna yeah." And everyone's like, "Whoa, she's just
Well,
gonna do it."
yeah, but I think that, like, if you don't have a neurospicy person in your life, go get one, like, go collect them, um, they're
Pull them
around,
in.
pull them in. Um, but truthfully, like, I feel like neurospicy people can see alternate kinda like a puzzle. They're like, "Oh, well, we can do that. Yeah, that's achievable. We can do it this way." So, I do think that
Oh,
my brain, has less roadblocks, but, like, almost to the delusional point where I truly believe I can do anything. Like, I'll see an artist, I'm like, "I could paint that." Like, "No, you can't. You're delusional." But I do believe that I can do a lot of different things. So maybe it's just delusion and it's mindset that if you believe you can do it, you can do it.
heck yeah. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay. So what happened after that? What did you do? You sold the house? How quickly did it
Mhm.
sell? What moves did you make?
It sold to the first couple that looked at it, and, like, I this sounds very strange because like, my soul was in that home.
Mm.
Um, but, like, we left for their viewing, and we came home, and this is before I knew if they even liked it, because some people are just like, "Oh, it's an interesting house, I'll go look at it." it was before I even knew any, like, if they were really interested, if they were tire kickers, quote unquote. And I walked
Mhm.
in and it didn't feel like mine anymore. Like,
Wow.
I was like, "This is," I was like, "It's theirs." Like, it's like the house picked them. I know that that sounds woo woo, but,
You're talking to the
and,
right person.
like,
Woo-woo's my game.
I remember, and it was such a weird feeling. I opened a bottle of wine and had a bottle of wine that night, and, like, I wrote them a letter without even them having put an offer. Like, I just, like, was like, "I feel like this is their house now." And, the couple that bought it, luckily, like, they're lovely, and they sent me a picture of their kids swimming in the pool the first day that they got it, and, like, it just was like a full circle moment. It was like, it kind of, the whole time I had that home, I said, like, "This house should have preteens in it." Like, the flexibility of having, like, that space and having your friends over, because, like, was the house growing up where my friends all felt safe with my parents, and if they were, their parents were going through issues, my parents would have them for a time, or, cook dinners for them. There was always a friend at the table at dinner. So I was like, this house, like, deserves preteens. Like, it kind of, like, I had always said that this would be amazing for preteens. So the house got three of them. So, and I'm really happy for that family. And it's like, I can reflect on that chapter and be really proud of the renos I did in that house and what I turned it into. And, that my husband and I did that together while living in it. Like, we would have to walk through scaffolding to get to our bedroom. So if you can reno a home floor to ceiling, like, get a home with someone, and during, like, living in there, your relationship should be able to do anything, really.
Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
So I just,
I
yeah, I feel like that was a
agree.
really nice close to that chapter. And then,
Yeah.
we spent the summer in Saskatoon that year, which is last year, and went to Europe 2 months, 2 different months, because I had a breast reduction scheduled. So we couldn't leave for the whole winter. So we went away for a little bit, and then we spent what, fingers crossed, will be our last Saskatchewan winter last year, a few months of it anyway. And this winter we left, and I'm in Costa Rica now.
Took off. And did you buy a house in Costa Rica? Did you rent?
We are renting an Airbnb. We'd never been to Costa Rica before, and obviously you want to check out any area before you buy something. But truthfully, I kind of have been really loving the freedom of not having that added responsibility of what happens to that property when you're gone, and this and that. So I don't know, maybe we'll just, like, change countries every year and just be renters for the winter.
Heck yeah. My dreams. So
Mhm.
good. So good. So good.
Mhm.
How do you feel like this journey has changed you?
We definitely have put, I grew up in the sales. I worked in a commission-based sales job in my whole life. So I always worked in really high stress situations that they they wanted a lot of hours out of you, and they wanted a lot of results out of you. So I didn't take the best care of me for many, many, many years. I had a really close friend. Her mom died. This is kind of like when she was diagnosed, and passed shortly after, kind of when this all went down. And I was just like, she wasn't even 60 yet. Like, because she obviously, Saskatchewan had a child young, so my friend is in her mid-30s. So, but I was like, she wasn't even 60. And I was like, if I only have 22 years, like, or 20 years left, what do I want those 20 years to look like? And that kind of just really, I really wanted to concentrate on things that brought me joy. And I wanted the time to concentrate on my health. And that's kind of where I'm going to be headed now.
What you've been doing?
Mhm.
Amazing. Huh. Wow. Well, and I'm just inspired by your journey. I really am. For myself, I'm currently in a space where I'm looking at having children and that sort of thing. And I know two different kinds of people. I know people who've chose to be child free and are living an extraordinary life. And I know people who have chosen to have children and they're like, there's nothing wrong with it, but they're doing what makes me overwhelmed, hockey practice and those sorts of things.
Mhm.
I'm also travel like crazy. And so I'm looking at this choice. And, talking with you, I love the how you are able to be like, you know what? But just do it. Do what makes you feel good, This like
Mhm.
kind of just do it like Nike check that I'm seeing in my mind when I think about your decisions. And you're like, all right, okay, like if I want to have a baby
Mhm.
and I want to have a traveling based life, I'll just do it. Just make it
Mhm.
happen.
My firm belief is choice, and you can choose whatever life you want. My friends have beautiful families, and I'm so happy for them. I founded a foundation and help women and families pay for infertility treatments that couldn't afford them to have babies. I believe in the family unit. I believe that people should have that choice to be mothers, and it just wasn't my choice. And I want people to equally respect the fact that you can have a full and happy life, and you can be a woman and bring as much into the world as one that had a child. I believe that just because paths are different, it doesn't mean that one's better or one's more accomplished or one's freer. Like, everyone has a different path, and we should all celebrate each other.
Mm, yeah. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? And so for someone listening really today, and I know I have gained so much from our talk today, but for someone listening who's kind of in that place where they're like, "Oh, I don't know what I should do. Like I feel this draw towards something whether that be travel or a career or whatever it is that they're fearing, what are some of the ways that you might be able to offer them some advice, if you were to put yourself into those situations where you were fearful but did it anyway, what are some of the things that you might be able to offer that person?
I think in life, you have to get really comfortable with failing and hearing no and all of those things. So I feel like maybe it was the sales aspect to me. I heard a lot of no's in my life. So I heard a lot of you can't do that or whatever. So I do believe that there's beauty in the failure, because even if you're like, oh, I just really wanted this, like in my soul, I wanted this, maybe the failure and you didn't get it and you tried for it, but there can still be a lesson in the failure. And maybe what you learned in the failure will draw you to something else that you're even more drawn to. Because I do believe that the universe puts things in your path that are meant for you. And I feel like just trying the most things and don't getting really down on yourself if you do fail or it doesn't work out or it doesn't work out the way that you envisioned it when you started the journey. I things can so you can redo it again or you can change directions. Nothing is permanent.
Really well said. Really well said. Nothing is permanent. I think that's a beautiful place to begin to wrap up here. um
Mhm.
for from someone who you really have done it all. You've lived so many lifetimes already. Like it's really, you were fearful and you started a business. I'm not sure about super fearful because I feel like you just have this personality where like, well, just do it. um but you started the business and then you got the success and then you met the man and then you started the foundation and then you sold it all and went to Costa Rica. You've lived so many lives so far. And so, really, I'm so grateful to you, Danny, for coming on the podcast and really sharing with people the different ways that you can just do it. You can just try something that gives you joy, no matter how scared you are, because that's what a lot of
Mhm.
this is. And really, the podcast is based around this idea that hard things happen, and that we can rise above again. We can get through. And I really truly believe that you are an example of that. So, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us and showing us that, life can be what you design it to be.
Absolutely. And there's joy after the mess. There
Yeah.
always is more joy.
Mm, amazing. Okay. Well,
Thank you for
enjoy the
having me.
sunshine, Danny. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being on, and I look forward to future chats. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this last episode, then consider rating the podcast. Those few seconds that it makes a huge difference. Also, if you are interested in mentorship, transformational programs, or reading the book Unbroken, Rising Above, Thriving Within, then take a look at the show notes for all the resources and links. Always remember, you can overcome any obstacle. Let's do this together.